So here are the top three reasons why your leads are not really converting into sales and how to fix each and every single one of these. So just recently, we had a client of ours do an audit, and Lisa, who owns a kids gym for kids like gymnastics type stuff, she found out looking backwards that 63% of all her members have come from attributed leads that were generated through the direct response marketing that we have in place. So, how does that happen? How do you get to the point where you are converting leads, and what are the three main problems that are causing you not to convert these leads? So, number one is, let's talk about the fat follow up method. So, let's visualize this. If you were to look at your follow up and give a weight to each piece of your follow up and put it on the scale, how much would it weigh? For example, let's pretend that 10 pounds is assigned to each message or each touch point in your follow up, right? So every message that goes out gets 10 pounds. Let's add 5 pounds for every strong call to action. Let's add another 5 pounds for urgency, and so on. So if you were to take your follow up, is it anemic and skinny? And if you put it on the scale, or is it really heavy and fat? And so just recently, one of our, in our account management meetings, we had some account managers that had really been testing a lot of different scenarios with the follow up. And so adding call to actions, adding additional follow up, really beefing it up and making it heavy, increased conversion rates pretty significantly. We saw, I think it was around 30 to 35% increase in conversion rates with a fatter follow up. And we knew that to be the case from past experience, but we tried some new things. And the reality is that your follow up is probably way too lean. Way too lean. So if you look at your follow up and you put it on the scale, does it weigh 10, 20, 30 pounds? Does it weigh 40, 50 pounds? Or is it hundreds of pounds? Right? And so your follow up should be hundreds of pounds, meaning it should have a lot of frequency, a lot of messaging. The messaging should have urgency. The call to action should be strong. And why is that? A lot of times, the people that are business owners will say, I don't want to bother people. I don't want to be abrasive or rude, or I don't want to come across too salesy. I understand that because you don't want to do that. But you got to think about like how many text messages and how many emails and how many phone calls and voicemails you typically ignore or catch you at a bad time that you mark as read and never get back to. You're driving in the car, you're taking a shower, you're doing something out on the yard, you are at the beach, you are at work, and you can't really respond. And so these things get looked at real quick, and then they go unread, and then there's no follow up behind it, and it dies forever. So you have to remember that you're catching people at different activities and different times of day. So when you have a fat follow up, the likelihood of like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, I am interested still. I do want to do that. And then all of a sudden they're re-engaged and moving forward into the sales pipeline. So that's really important. Number two, I see this a lot. It's sales skills on the back end of lead management. A lot of times there's a deficiency in sales skills at the point of sale, and the quick response is to blame the quality of the leads. And I know this because I have, over time, we've worked with so many entrepreneurs and so many franchise owners or independent business owners that have all kinds of different businesses in like the wellness and fitness spaces and in kids spaces, things like that, clinics. And what I see consistently, this is something I see over and over again, is that the back end sales, like if you have a young green person who just started in the role and they're working a front desk job or something like that, and they don't have any real sales training or experience or skills, what they're saying when we've done audits is they're saying, well, here's our programs, let me know what you think. And they literally just push them out the door because they're so scared and are unsure of how to handle this process. I'll give you an example. Recently, we had a franchisee, and she was not converting at all. She owns a gym. She was not converting leads, and we're like, "What's going on here?" We looked at everything, and we audited the sales process. We're like, "Okay." Here's the ABC sales framework you need to follow. We want you to take a couple of weeks and level up your sales skills following this framework, watch the training and get through this and then see what happens. She actually did it. And the next month, she sold 50 memberships from the attributed leads. So the issue was not the lead quality. The leads were exactly the same. The issue was she didn't have a framework to follow for the sales process. And so if you don't have a sales process or a framework to follow for your team or yourself, then you need to have one. You can look through my YouTube channel. Maybe I'll link it. You have an ABC framework that if you follow that, it works really, really well. And it's really soft. It's not like overly pushy. It's very consultative in nature, but it works. Okay. So number three, and this one, number three is probably one of the biggest ones because this one impacts the other two and everything else. The conversion rate can be so much higher if you get this one correct. Number three is all about positioning. What is positioning? Positioning is basically your brand, your reputation. It's the proof that you have, the results, the social proof. It's the reviews. It's the social media chatter. It's what people are saying. It's your reputation in your local marketplace. And I'm going to give you a very tactical way to elevate that very, very quickly and make it to where your leads convert so much higher really, really fast. Number one is you can run retargeting ads to the leads that you're generating with all of the above. So, for example, if you have a lead come in and then all of a sudden they're getting follow up, follow up, follow up, but that's all they're getting, and there's no value being added, there's no brand building, there's no positioning, then the likelihood of them converting is going to be substantially lower. On the flip side, if you have it to where a lead opts in and then all of a sudden they're entered into a retargeting campaign, and this retargeting campaign has testimonials, it has reviews, it's demonstrating results, and has social proof and what people are saying online, and it has video testimonials, and it has education pieces to where you're educating them, especially if you're in like let's say you're in more like a recovery space where you're more clinical in nature and you offer like plunges and red light therapy and you offer IV and all these different drips, and people have a lot of questions. Maybe it's still really new in your marketplace. Education can be very valuable to warm those leads up because you got to think, you got to remember, a lot of times these leads are lukewarm or even cold, right? A lot of times when you're running any type of lead generation or demand generation marketing, those leads are not really, really hot yet. It's kind of like when you go fishing and you throw out a bait and you're working that bait and you're reeling it and you're reeling it, and all of a sudden you get what's called a reaction bite, right? Somebody's like, ooh, that's interesting. Or the fish is like, boom, and the fish hits it, and then you're hooked up and you're reeling the fish in. It's a reaction bite, right? Because you put the right bait in front of them and they reacted. They weren't necessarily shopping, they weren't in the marketplace for that, they weren't looking actively, but there was a reaction bite. But these leads are fantastic because they actually took the time to fill out all of their contact information. Maybe they booked or scheduled something. But the only way to get a higher conversion rate is to have the right positioning. And the short pathway to have the right positioning for these leads is to put the right content in front of them over and over again. Now, long-term thinking, you want to build a brand that is going to have this positioning everywhere, because the better your brand reputation is and the more local brand equity you have for your local brick and mortar business in your specific marketplace, you can outshine competition. Your conversion rates can be double. Your sales people can have less skill and still close at a really high rate because people are being pre-sold and they're coming in ready to buy because of all the positioning that was done prior. And you do that through content, through marketing, through reviews, through social proof, through results, and all of those other things that I mentioned. So to sum it up, fatten up your follow-up. It shouldn't weigh 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds. It should weigh hundreds of pounds. So fatten up your follow-up by adding more messaging, stronger call to actions, more consistent call to actions, more urgency. Number two, you have to level up your sales, whether it's the training that you're offering your people, your team, or it's the what you're doing personally. Level up your sales. sales matters. And then number 3 is positioning. You can start with retargeting, and that is probably the fastest pathway to building positioning and heating leads up instead of allowing them to cool off. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you like, share, subscribe, drop a comment. And also, if you're interested in talking about this further, book a demo and see if you qualify and if there's a potential good fit here. We'll talk to you soon.